30 years. That's how long a normal house in Tokyo lasts before somebody tears it down. Not because it's falling apart. It's solid, and people are living in it. On paper, it's just worth nothing. We're used to the idea that the older a building gets, the more valuable it is. A 100-year-old house in Europe sells for more than a new one. That's the whole point of buying a home. It builds value, and it goes to your kids. Here, the rule runs backwards. This is one of the biggest metro areas on the planet, around 37 million people, and one of the very few cities with 400 years of unbroken history. And yet finding a house here that's been standing for even 50 years is almost impossible. Almost everything that looks illogical about this city isn't a pile of quirks. It's the fallout from one decision. Today, we're going to find out why a name in Japan can cost more than an apartment. Why the people most often adopted here are men in their 30s. And why a house in this city might cease to have any value while its owner is still alive. If nothing here is built to outlive a single generation, what do you actually pass down? Let's get into it. Start with what actually gets passed down here. It's a name, and not in some poetic sense. In Japan, a name can be an asset with a price and a market. Nowhere is that clearer than in sport. Professional sumo has exactly 105 elder licenses. That number was locked in back in 1927, and in almost a century, not a single new one has been created. Each license is a specific name, one that other men carried before you. And to get one, a wrestler gives up the fighting name he competed under for years and takes someone else's. There are always more candidates than there are names. So for decades, a closed market grew up around them, and individual names went for close to $3 million for the right to be called something. In 2014, open market sales were banned, but the names didn't go anywhere. They're still inherited, and they're still rented. Remember that word. It turns out names aren't the only thing you can rent in this city. The same principle runs through the crafts. In tea schools, in kabuki theater, the student takes on his teacher's name, not alongside his own, instead of it. The man on that stage might be the 13th person to carry the name, and this logic runs straight into the family. Japanese has a word for it, i.e., it usually gets translated as house, but it isn't about a building. I.e. is the family and the business as one organism that outlives the people who built it. Individuals rotate through. The thing itself stays. In practice, it looks like this. Most adoptions in Japan are adoptions of grown men, 25, 30 years old. Sounds insane? Watch how it works. A family has a business, a shop, a workshop, a company, and no heir, so now what? You find the right person and make him your son. Usually it's the daughter's husband. He takes the surname, joins the family, and gets the business. It's called Mukoyoshi, the son-in-law who became the son. And this isn't a museum piece. Suzuki was run by 4 adopted heirs in a row. Osamu Suzuki, who led the company for decades, was born Osamu Matsuda. He married the owner's daughter and became the 4th adopted son to run the place. And from there, the same logic moves out of business and into everyday life. If the role matters more than the person, the role can be filled or rented. There are agencies in Japan that will send you a relative for the evening, a husband for a family dinner, a boss to apologize to a client, a father for your wedding. We'd call that a fake. Here it's a repair. The empty position gets filled and the line doesn't break. And if a name matters more than a person, it makes sense that the name has a physical form. A lease, a bank account, buying a car. Where we'd sign our name, Japan traditionally uses a Hanko, a small stamp carved with the characters of your name, registered with your local government. That stamp is what makes the document real. The difference is subtler than it looks. A signature proves a specific hand was here. A stamp proves a name was here. But where does a city come from where a name is more durable than a house? The answer starts back when this place was still called Edo. It was built out of wood and paper, houses packed wall to wall, and fires came so regularly they got their own nickname, the Flowers of Edo. There was never enough water, so the way you stopped a fire was by pulling down the houses in its path. They destroyed buildings to save the city. The structure was already the disposable part. Since then, the city has been wiped out completely 3 times. 1657, the Great Fire. 1923, the earthquake. 1945, the bombing. You'd think that explains it. But the last catastrophe ended 80 years ago. The city hasn't burned since, and the houses still die right on schedule. So it isn't about fire. It's about the fact that the ground here moves. Japan sits where tectonic plates meet, and after every major earthquake, the seismic codes get rewritten. The turning point was 1981. Everything built before it became old standard overnight. A house from the 1970s didn't get physically worse. It just stopped matching what now counts as safe. And retrofitting costs more than demolishing. On top of that, wooden houses have a legal, useful life for tax purposes. 22 years, after which the building is worth nothing on paper. And here's the paradox. Constant demolition has made Tokyo one of the most disaster-proof cities on Earth. And that same mechanism means the only thing you can accumulate here is land. From there, the logic starts reshaping the houses themselves. If the value is in the lot, you subdivide the lot. The city is full of plots 6 to 10 feet wide, and a normal house doesn't fit, so they build up. They're called pencil houses. 1 room per floor, a staircase instead of a hallway. Buildings here get replaced, and the lot dictates their shape. But there's one thing in this city that doesn't change at all, and you can't even see it. It's a sound. Every station in Tokyo has its own departure melody, 7 or 8 notes, a few seconds long, and every platform has a different one. Composers write them, and they write them to spec. The signal has to warn you without rushing you. A harsh buzzer makes people sprint for the doors. A calm little tune keeps the platform calm. At some stations, the melody is tied to the neighborhood, a nod to a local song, or to something that used to be there. The buildings around the station get torn down and rebuilt. Shops, signs, people, all of it turns over. And at that same minute, the same notes play on the platform that played 10 years ago. Somebody who lives there knows their station by sound before they even look up. You can't hand down an object here, but you can hand down a minute, and people aren't the only ones who work this out. Japanese folklore has the Tanuki, a raccoon dog, a shapeshifter, a trickster who loves messing with people. It still lives in Tokyo, in the city parks, along the green strips between districts, and on the grounds of the Imperial Palace. Pay attention to where exactly. Not in the alleys, not on construction sites. In the palace moats and the parks. The one layer of this city nobody rebuilds from one generation to the next. It picked the land. The same thing the city picked. The crows went a different way. There are barely any branches in Tokyo, but there are wire coat hangers on everybody's balcony. The crows steal them and weave them into nests on poles and transformers. The metal shorts the lines and blacks out whole blocks. So there are crews whose job is taking those nests apart. The crows answered that by building empty decoy nests one level down. And they eat on a schedule. Tokyo puts its trash out in yellow bags on strictly assigned days and hours at the same spots every time. The crows know that timetable better than some of the residents, and they show up on exactly the right morning. The Tanuki picked the land. The crow picked the schedule. Neither of them adapted to the buildings. The buildings here don't stay long enough. We started with a question. What can you pass down in a place where nothing holds? Turns out there's plenty, just not the things we're used to looking at. The land, which doesn't depreciate. The name, which outranks blood. The rhythm that repeats every morning. None of it can burn. Most cities prove they exist by what they manage to keep in stone. Tokyo proves it by never having stopped.